Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King. And today I'm going to be giving you part 34 of What If Naruto was the direct descendant of the sage. Remember to get this one to 100 like as usual. Share this to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also guys, go ahead and check out the brand new episode of What If Naruto was put through hell and adopted by the Raikage over on Anime King 2, and enjoy that guys. And stay in tune for a brand new episode coming over Anime King 3, which I hope that you guys will enjoy. And remember, if you're new, to go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and support. And yeah, without further ado, we'll begin this new episode. Start the intro. So the last spot we left off, as Hiruzen quickly made his way to take on the intruders, which was the 6 paths of pain. As they all were lined up, chaos erupted around the entire village, with all of the summoning animals tearing things apart. As the battle was chaotic, Hiruzen in his prime might have been able to keep up, but in his old age he wasn't able to keep up with the 6 paths of pain, as they were able to knock him down and pierce a rod through his 2 hands, pinning him down to the ground. As Fu went after Konan, the both of them were like one in the same when you thought about it. Both of them serving a Rinnegan master who was trying to achieve peace in somehow. But the both of them were willing to do anything that it takes to make sure that your partners were safe and okay. As the both of them start a battle, a rather chaotic battle, as Fu was able to still manifest her wings despite them not being completely fully under her control, seeing that she usually had Komi for backup there. As Naruto came to the 6 paths of pain, hearing the man's ideals and goals, it made Naruto frown. He could have imagined himself turning out like this if he didn't have the people around him to cherish him, and for him to cherish them as well. As the both of them start a battle, they ransacked through the village as buildings, mountains over to the outer side of the village was blown apart as their battle was chaotic. Jiraiya and the others took on the massive summoning creatures all around the village and got people to safety as Naruto took on the paths of pain. The both of them were like 2 tanks destroying everything. As Pain realized that he was losing, as Naruto was throwing techniques after techniques bringing out those chains of his, Pain decided to end this as he used the Shibaku no Tensei and rise everything from the earth. The fox warned Naruto not to go too far, as mixing his chakra with the sage natural energy was gonna bring out a violent reaction. Not even him know what was gonna happen, as Naruto was willing to do anything, as he wouldn't let these people die for something that was because of him. As his eyes were changing as he spoke, as he brought out his chains and wrapped around the massive meteor from the sky that Nagato had created, as Nagato was shocked when Naruto started to rip it down. The man couldn't believe it. Despite Nagato being the master of the Rinnegan for so long, and Naruto being an upstart, he was able to use it at such levels as Naruto pulled that ball out of the sky. So yeah guys, it was basically that's where we left off. You guys can switch across and please check it for yourself. So what is to begin this new episode? Tendo looked up into the sky as Naruto was able to do the impossible. As Tendo watched a massive meteor that was being pulled down directly towards him to crush him. Usually, one would be in utter fear and shock by now, but he wasn't in fear or shock. He simply smiled as the meteor came down to pulverize him. The raw, natural strength of Naruto Uzumaki was immense. As Jiraiya was making his way, as everyone was shocked when they saw the massive spear that was ripping apart their home and pulling it into the sky, Jiraiya felt the natural energy around him being tapped into. It was being sucked away. It was Rize had his hands clasped together as he was focusing on summoning the 2 toads from Mount Miyaboku. But then Jiraiya saw the thing being pulled. He quickly broke his hand apart as he went through Hansen and summoned Gamikin, who used his massive shield to protect the village. As Because of the way Konoha was built in a circular fashion, some of the buildings on the outer side got crushed, but most of them were on the inner side as they were protected, as Gamaken also stood there as the rocks pelted off his shield. And the Hokage monument also had a big hand in part because the rocks were leveled over to the side, not trampling the entire village. But when the smoke cleared, the landscape of Konoha was changed. The feel of broken rubble and chaos was over to the southern edge of the village. And the Hokage monument was a bit smaller than you remember. That mattered little though, as Jiraiya could still feel the presence of the other sage as he hopped onto Gamaken back, who was still a bit confused, but he got the thanks from Jiraiya as he made his way towards the rubble of what used to be the forest, but it was no longer there. As he then saw movement amongst the earth and stone, he watched as a hand burst from the earth as a massive boulder was thrown off his back as Naruto emerged. For a moment, Jiraiya looked on in shock, completely forgotten about the two toads that he was about to summon. "Naruto?" said Jiraiya, as he looked towards the young monk that was covered in dust. As Naruto merely flicked his wrist and rubble was blown off of him, including dust, but his robe was torn, and that wouldn't be fixing that easily. "One moment, Jiraiya-san," said Naruto, as he looked around before vanishing. Jiraiya was about to take off after him when Naruto returned with Shakijo in hand. There was not even a dent or a scratch on it. "What's going on here? What happened to your seal? Where's the invader? What was that technique just now? How? Are you even alive?" The rapid amount of questions from the man as Naruto walked forward, hiding the pain that he was in. Earth chakra, the Azure path, and a rapid dose of nature chakra could only go so far at fortifying the body when he had a front row seat to a meteorite. Jiraiya then noticed something that he had been not focusing on. "You're the one who's currently using Senjutsu," he said. "Give me a moment first to gain my bearings," said Naruto, as Jiraiya nodded, letting down his guard a bit. In that instant, Naruto tapped him on the chest with his staff, as Jiraiya felt his ability to use his chakra completely vanish. Back in Konoha, Gamaken poofed away. Jiraiya frowned, but realized he could still speak, despite what was ever done to him. "What did you just do?" Jiraiya asked. "It's not very nice having your chakra take away against your will, is it?" said Naruto. Jiraiya released a reluctant sigh. "Point taken, kid. Now, undo this." "Meh, it will wear off in a few hours," said Naruto. Jiraiya tried to raise his chakra to break what was ever was suppressing him, but he could not. "This is no time for jokes, Naruto," he said. "I agree, but there's also a point to be proven. I knew about the leader of the Akatsuki. I knew about the Rinnegan. In fact, I was on my way to the Hidden Rain to deal with the situation when Konoha decided that my safety was suddenly their concern. Many lives could have been prevented from dying today." Jiraiya would have flinched if he could, as Naruto simply walked away, leaving Jiraiya to struggle against his invisible bonds. "Kurama, what is going on in there? What's the damage?" He was curious to know because ever since he entered Sage Mode, he has felt no lingering effects. But he didn't hear anything. "Kurama," he said. "Naruto, I am sorry." Naruto was shocked by the apology. "I didn't know. When you took in the nature engine, it calmed my chakra somehow. Right now it is no more dangerous to you than your own chakra." As Naruto understand why he apologized. If he had entered Sage Mode earlier, he could have ended the conflict and saved many more lives, but Kurama had warned him not to, not knowing the effects. Naruto sighed as he released a breath. "It's fine, Kurama," he said. "You didn't know anyway. And if I'd used Senjutsu, perhaps he would have used that technique in the center of the village, and more life would have been lost then." A few moments later, Naruto found what he was looking for. The half-body of one of the pain, the last one that remained, Jed Note of the rocks. As Naruto reached and removed one of the chakra receivers, as he shut the blood off, his eyes pulsed gently before he saw the chakra, as he crushed the rod and made his way after it. When Naruto arrived, he had a few images in his head what pain looked like as he got ready for a fight. But an old, desiccated man strapped to a machine was not something he expected at all. The two Rinnegan users stared at each other for the first time in person, and the both of them were silent as they were sizing each other up. "You're not exactly what I was expecting." "I could say the very same thing," Pain said, his voice deep and raspy. "So what now, Naruto Uzumaki? Do you come to kill me?" Naruto's hands slowly opened and closed, balling into a fist. "I don't know," he said truthfully. He had no idea what he was going to do or say. When he finally met the Rinnegan user in person, the answer seemed to surprise Pain as well. "What's your name?" Pain looked up as he narrowed his eyes. "My name?" He has not been asked his name in a very long time. Even Konan had given up a long time ago and just called him Pain. "Nagato," he said, as Naruto closed his eye for a moment. As Nagato considered firing the chakra rod that he had in his receiver, but he stayed his hand for the moment for a reason. He didn't think it would have done much anyway. "Nagato, I guess I just wanted to meet you, to try and understand how all of this happened, how you became this way." A dry laugh escaped Nagato's lips. Understanding is pointless unless you share pain. That is the only way for two human beings to understand each other. As Naruto frowned, his hand still flexing as he stood there. But why does it have to be that way? Why can't mankind understand one another through positive emotions? A sheer understanding of love and not loss, happiness instead of misery. You are naive. Mankind will always know pain. It's the only common ground between us all. You cannot understand if you've never felt it, but the greed and selfishness of those who has only suffered will always lead to the misery of others. That is why people need to understand great hardship. As Naruto stepped forward, then help me understand as Naruto moved and grabbed his hand as he pulled it right out of the machine. Show me your pain, Nagato. Naruto placed his hand on Nagato's forehead, with Nagato's hand on his forehead. Human path. As Naruto smiled as his father bounced him on his knee. As his mother came in, Mom, he said. My little Naruto-chan, the woman said, walking over. As Naruto's smile is red hair, flopping from left to the right. A sign of his family. Despite the other kids calling it a weird hair color, still he loved it. It was a sign of his family, and he knew this was a place that he belonged. He then skipped to Nagato. Thanks for the food, he said. The girl behind the counter giggled as the boy wept down on the food. Slow down, Nagato-kun, the girl said behind the counter. As Nagato looked up, a single noodle right at his cheek. Ayam reached over and wiped the sauce off his chin as he looked away with a blush. Thanks, big sister, said Nagato. As Nagato smiled, it's been a couple of months since he found little ramen stand, and these people didn't treat him like the others. It then skipped to Naruto as the lightning flashed outside badly. As Naruto was in the house, he heard his mother's cry as he rushed forward to see his mother with a kunai in her chest. Tears rushed down his cheeks as two shinobi walked closer, saying something but he couldn't quite hear them. One emotion stood out above all the others: anger. As a wave of chakra pulsed inside of him, and everything exploded outwards. It then skipped back to Nagato as he looked down towards the ground. His hands were soaked in blood, Ayam's blood, as the two shinobis that had tried to kill him. It was all his fault. He did this. As a burning hot rage flooded through his body, and all the energy that was being kept up, he released it. Skip back to Naruto as he flinched as a door slammed right into his face. At least these people bothered to open their doors. The others simply told him to run away or get out of here. His stomach growled, but he still go on. It then skipped back to Nagato as he made his way running through the forest, tears streaming down his face, running out into the depths of the forest. It then skipped back as Naruto looked at Yaiko as he spoke to the ninjas. When Yaiko came back, though, one of them came with him. A tall man with white spiky hair. As Naruto could feel the power radiating off the man, and knew that this man could get rid of them with a flick of his wrist. And the other one over there, that looked like a snake. But when he looked up, he only saw the man, giving him a smile, a rather bright smile, as he tried his best to put on a smile as well. Skip back to Nagato as he passed, as a monk had found him, as he was currently in the monastery. As he walked behind the monk, as he looked through every windows, as he saw a monk outside training, as they were doing flexible, moving their body in some strange routine, also praying to a statue as well. Skip back to Naruto, as his eyes were wide, as his best friend Yaiko was right in front of him, plastered on his chest. The kunai that he held up was now in Yaiko's chest. Keep on living. Together with Konan, Yaiko said. That was his last words. As once again the rage came up to the surface, as all hell broke loose, as he looked up towards Hanzo, the salamander. Skip back to Nagato. He froze as Shizuka looked up towards him. Please, don't cry, she said, as she wiped the tears off his cheek. He couldn't do anything, couldn't stop the bleeding, as his eyes were pulsing over and over. Once again the rage, the anger, as Yagura had just took her away from him. He looked up with utter rage, as he released that anger once again. To them, it was a long time, but to the outside world it was just minutes that passed. As Naruto stepped back, both of them saw each other live, with the both of them playing them. Nagato saw everything that Naruto saw, with him playing Naruto. He was there, he witnessed everything with Shizuka. He saw his loss, he saw his suffer, he saw his pain. And Naruto also saw the same thing, with Yaiko, forced to kill himself, so that Konan would not die. Both were silent as they were coping over what they had witnessed, as a strange pressure then descended down the paper tree. As Naruto remembered, Konan had built it for him. No, she built it for Nagato. As he tried to realign his thoughts, he was not Nagato, he was Naruto. How, said Nagato, as he looked quite frustrated. Our life, they're so similar. There's so many parallels. Yet, as Naruto straightened up himself, his mind was still trying to comprehend the chakras receivers in his back that gave him a phantom pain and his legs not working, despite us almost having the same. We took such different paths, said Nagato as he looked up. Why? Why did you choose to ignore it? The hate, the loathing of the people, their ignorance, it was stripping you away. I'm not sure what to tell you, to be honest, said Naruto. Back then I was only naive. I could only latch onto the small ray of hope I had with the Ichirakus. You were the same way with your parents, said Naruto. Nagato noticed a small slip up. He didn't say anything. Instead, he just looked back through Naruto memories that he had right there, trying to find some semblance, some reason why the switch was so different, despite them going through the same thing. You have experienced real pain. You have lost the people that you care about over and over. You have the same power as me, greater even. As Nagato saw it, there was just the power on the surface brimming. It just needed that crack to explode. It was only him denying to use the power that he had inside of him that stopped him from crushing Nagato puppets into dust from the beginning. He had so much power inside of him. Is that what separates us? Because you're Jinchuriki, said Nagato. As Naruto stepped forward, making Nagato flinch a bit. I can't say that who I am. I am because of Kurama. But everyone I meet so far has changed away and shaped how I see things. Even you have done the same. Standing against me with so similar life, similar powers, and yet gone different way. As Naruto clenched his fists. But how could you? Yaiko's dream, it was just so pure. And I can see how it was twisted into this abomination that you call the Akatsuki. But his dream, it was never wrong, it was pure. An image of the masked man that Naruto knew, who was claiming to be Madara Uchiha now, flashed across both of their minds. What would you do? Asked Nagato. Peace, true peace, was never something that actually crossed Naruto's mind. The ideal seemed impossible. Far from most we believe, many monks did not seek enlightenment between everyone. They only want to get out of the cycle of samsara for themselves. Something that seemed quite selfish. Even Naruto had never put much effort into understanding much. He wanted to understand chakra and protect those who were precious to him. He never actually strived to bring true peace to the world. I do not know, he said. As Nagato nodded, he already gained a good piece of the monk from his memories. But, said Naruto, as Nagato looked back up, I can't accept your way. Understanding pain may be the faster way to broker peace, but to force it upon humanity, that will be nothing more than a hollow victory. Peace is important. It gives us all something to strive and hope for. Without the freedom to pave that future for ourselves, it becomes worse than worthless. There was silence for a moment, until Nagato released a dry chuckle that echoed around the hollow dry tree. Perspective is such a strange thing, isn't it? I had a sensei once. Naruto nodded as he remembered Jiraiya from the memories. It was his dream to see this world pass the abomination and the cycle of distrust and chaos and hatred, to see it enter a version of utter peace, where children could walk the road. Chaos, destruction will be prevented. Giant scale attacks will be no more. I imagine that you'll be so ashamed of me to see what I've turned that dream of his into. Maybe. But at the same time he would try to understand. To be honest, Naruto was surprised at the memory that he saw of Jiraiya. It was just so fatherly. As Nagato looked up, searching Naruto's face for deception, before he slowly nodded. Where does that leave us then? The two legacy of the stage, standing on opposing sides. Naruto frowned only deepened as he traced a small circle on the floor with his feet. We do not have to give up on peace, because defeat of those dreams would be like completely erasing everything you learned from Jiraiya. You are the leader of the Hinarine. Surely, there's something that you can do with that position of yours. I rule because I believe I was God, able to defeat Hanzo, one of the strongest shinobis of the age, and easily bend the wills of the country to my enlightenment. I am no real leader, even the day-to-day running of the village. I left the Konan. As Nagato's eyes widened, as Naruto did the same. It's okay, said Naruto. I was thinking about it myself. Nagato pulled his other arm free, as both of them went through handstand at the same time. Summoning! There was two poof inside the hollow tree. Next, Naruto 4 appeared, making the blonde instantly worry as he looked over her battered, burned body. Her own natural healing features were already given, but her face was scrunched up in pain. His hand lit up green as he waved his hand over the wounds. We are lucky, aren't we? Said Naruto as he looked up towards Konan, battered form as well. The both of them seemed to have fought each other to a standstill. As Nagato looked down towards Konan, as she was unconscious, her Akatsuki robe was torn badly, but nothing that left her exposed. I remind myself of that every day, Naruto said, brushing a hand through Fu, here as she slept. As Nagato looked forward, it feels unfair to even ask you of something, after everything, but would you mind helping me with something, Uzumaki-san? The blonde nodded slowly, a bit confused what the request would be, as the machine started to open up as steam emerged. As Naruto moved forward and caught the man, as he was just gonna fall. You can just call me Naruto. With her eyes, we might as well be family, said Naruto, as he helped the man up to his feet. Thank you for this. As the man made Naruto walking forward, I just wanted to stand on my own feet again. For the longest time I've been living through Yaiko's eyes. As Naruto looked towards the 6 bodies of pain, they were also summoned along with Konan. I deluded myself for so long, hiding behind a mask of omniscience and false godhood, believing that my eyes made me special, just because I use them and not the reason I have them for. As he allowed Naruto to place him down right beside Konan, as he gently took her hand, he flinched a bit as he looked at his own pale hand. It has been so long since he focused on his body. I think that is where you and I really differ, Naruto, he said, correcting himself. Maybe so, but that does not mean it's too late to change, said Naruto. Nagato seemed really thoughtful for a moment, before the edge of his lip tilted up slightly. I think you're right. You are very much alike with Yaiko. I think the both of you would have gotten along. As Naruto knew that was a great pride he bestowed on him right there, as he knew how much a man felt for Nagato, the pride that he saw Yaiko as. So for him to say that was quite a feat. As Naruto looked down towards Konan, despite not knowing this woman, the memories, they were still just conflicting. It was like he knew her for his entire life. So what will you do now, Naruto asked. Return to the Yin Rain. Konan, need time to rest, and I think I should finally put Yaiko to rest as well. He's been using his body for too long now. And you, Naruto, he asked, what will you do? I'm not sure, said Naruto. He really wasn't. He certainly was not going to go back to Konoha, especially after what he learned about the Akatsuki true motives. I suppose I'll have to go searching for the masked man. I should warn you, if what he said is really true, and he is really Madara Uchiha, he's a force to be reckoned with. Even if he's not, he's a Uchiha, and they too are dangerous. They are also descendant of the sage after all. Whoever he is, the Sharingan is powerful. If he was able to put the Kurama under sway. As Naruto raised the eyebrow to the way Nagato corrected himself, seems like he wasn't the only one that was having a side effect of them sharing memories. Naruto heard a growl in his head, like I could ever be controlled by such a pathetic ninja. He simply used the opportunity when I was unsealed and confused, when I was weakened to strike. He's just a pathetic Uchiha like all of them are, said Kurama. If you are unsure where to go next though, might I make a suggestion, said Nagato. As Naruto raised the eyebrow at that, time skip, Naruto and Fu sat on a skyscraper. These were the largest buildings that Naruto had ever seen before. It had taken a short time for them to leave Nakune and made their way west toward the Hidden Rain. As Naruto had taken Nagato up on his offer to give them shelter until they planned their next move. Fu and Konan had woken up before they arrived. The two Rinnegan users already taught their partners down to get accustomed to the new situation. As Fu was sitting right next to him, their feet dangling over the edge. I still don't understand what happened. That man Nagato, he's no longer our enemy. As Naruto smirked, he expected that question sooner or later, seeing that they were given permission to enter the village by Nagato himself, and the man needed time to recover. It was a perfect opportunity for Naruto and Fu to explore the place. Naruto suggested to remove the chakra receivers if he truly wanted to stop living through his paths, as Naruto told him that his legs were not unhealable. The only reason why he hasn't healed was because of the constant depletion of his chakra through the chakra rods. It caused his body to divert chakra towards the essential parts, leaving its arms and legs to waste away. However, the man was resting now. No, Nagato is no longer our enemy. We might in fact be friends now. Fu blinked, her mouth open. As she was about to say something before she paused, she closed her mouth before opening it again, before she closed it back. As Naruto raised her hand and held onto hers, calming her. Just what happened, she said. Oh, we talked, said Naruto. Threats were made. We each tried to convince other that our paths were the right one. I used the human path. He did as well, as we relived each other's life. And he came around to my way of thinking, and now we're here. Fu just looked at him. Before she sighed, you're impossible sometimes, she said. I try, said Naruto. She shuffled closer to him so she could lean up on his side. You know, I don't even know why I bothered to be surprised anymore. You would just continue to do impossible, amazing things like always. Who else but you can be fighting someone to that degree? Who didn't seem like you want to change any moment, and yet be friends at next moment with him. As Naruto raised a hand as he watched rain droplets hit his skin before rolling off his hand. This rain, it's a technique, you know. Fu looked up. It's Nagato's. He's able to sense anything the rain touches, even from the smallest droplets. Of course right now it's useless because he's asleep, but they give you a glimpse of what he could have achieved if it wasn't because of those rods. As Fu looked at him, you think that you could have become like him, don't you? Maybe it's just we're so similar. Shockingly similar, said Naruto. The loss, the revenge, the anger. As Naruto looked down as he saw Yagura and Hanzo standing in one place with fear in their eyes as they knew that they were gonna die when both men had got their revenge on the people that took away so much from them. That's why I want to thank you, Fu. Before she could say anything, Naruto kissed her as she leaned into the warm touch. The both of them broke apart, their cheeks being red. You're welcome, she said, as Naruto's face lighted up with a smile, making her heart flutter. I may not have realized my feelings then, or even understood that any existed, but you were there for me. Without that, then who knows? I really could have turned out like Nagato, said Naruto. Even if you had, I would have still followed you. You rescued me, she said. For a moment, Naruto's soft smile faltered, his mind being assaulted by memories that were not his. Memories of Konan, years of supporting Nagato in goals that were twisting away from the original goal. More for her heart being sealed away. Would he have done the same to Fu? Make her give up everything because she owed him a death? He hoped not, but with the state that he was in after Shizuku's death, and how Nagato had fallen, he just didn't know. Fu seemed to sense that though as she placed her hand to his cheek. Naruto, at one time, I may have followed you for what you did for me, but I love you for who you are, and nothing will change that for me, she said. Thank you, Fu. I love you, said Naruto, as the both of them rolled onto the roof as Naruto kissed her. As she giggled a bit, a sweet, soft giggle. Whirl went completely unnoticed them, the rain, everything, as they were lost in a kiss of passion. Time skip. Both teams lay together as their chests rising and falling. The only thing that protected their modesty was Naruto's cloak that was thrown over them. Still fell from the sky on them, but with the fire chakra coursing through his veins, it was like a warm, healthy shower. As Fu was wrapped up on him tight, as he just lay in silence, basking in it, as Naruto traced his fingers along her back. But then the rain started to die off, the clouds parting, revealing blue skies, as he pulled on his clothing, after gently removing Fu off of him, despite her groans. As Naruto spread out his senses, his eyes widened. Nagato rain had stopped him from sensing so far, but now, Konan could feel her chakra dimming incredibly so, as he shot off in that direction, leaving a confused Fu behind. As he dashed forward, bouncing from building to building, using his chakra to repel him forward, as a chakra rod came from his hand and landed right in his palm. As he saw Konan being held up by her throat by that same masked man that he was gonna be searching for soon enough. The orange mask was cracked, and he was missing an arm, but the man was choking Konan, literally squeezing life out of her. Naruto threw the rod with incredible strength. It burst through the air. It faded right through his body though, but it did its purpose as Konan fell on top of the water because the man's body was forced to become intangible. 3 more rods phased right through him as he turned. Ah, Naruto, I was wondering if you'd come to interfere. As Naruto saw the man gleaming Sharingan, it doesn't matter, I have what I was after. His body was then sucked away in a swirling vortex as he vanished. Naruto rushed towards Konan. Please, leave me. Go. Nagato, help, she said as her throat was damaged. Naruto did not want to leave her to die right now, but Nagato was completely defenseless. It's alright, I'll help her, said Fu as she crouched down. Naruto smiled thankfully as he dashed back towards the hidden rain. Time skip. The masked man smirked as he held up the Rinnegan eye, looking at it like it was a fine work of art. As he turned, he dropped the thing in the container with his copy. As he turned towards Naruto to enter the room, Nagato was still unconscious from the surgery, from having the chakra rods removed from his back, as his eyes were bleeding, but he was still unconscious. You know, you had me almost worried, Naruto. The man sealed the jar away, and it was sucked away in a swirling vortex as Naruto could only watch. I was certain that Nagato would just exhaust you to the point where he would be dead, or you would be weakened to the point where I could just come in and take back my eyes. But no, you continue to amaze me after and after again, showing me that you can continuously interrupt my plan. So I decided to take a page out of your book. I just went along with the flow. As Naruto glanced down towards Nagato, he would need attention fairly soon. That I wanted to try out a little technique I pick up from a neutral acquaintance of ours, a certain snake actually. As Toby went through hand signs directly beside Nagato so that Naruto would make any moves. He wasn't exactly forthcoming with the information, but I was told I can be very persuasive when I want to be. As he finished the last seal, as Naruto's eyes widened in horror at what he was seeing. Oh good, you recognize it. Edo Tensei, the man says, he slammed his hand down as the coffin rose out of the ground. The coffin lid fell open and down to the ground. As Naruto stared with shock to who he saw, the masked man sucked himself now in a swirling vortex. I'll leave it to you then. Have fun with your new playmate, Naruto, he said. Oh, and try not to die. It would be very inconvenient to me. As the man sucked himself away and was gone. As Naruto focused back on the coffin, B, he said. As B stepped forward, looking confused. That's impossible. You can't be dead. Yo, what's going on, Mr. Nine, said B. Oh man, I ain't feeling all that fine, he said. As Naruto clenched his fists, as he cursed at himself, he didn't go to find B. As he was there at Konoha, he had many more things to do. He should have gone and find B to warn him about the upcoming situation. B looked down towards his own body, as he was cracked, lying himself. Oh man, this is some pretty strange shit. Ain't no use getting used to something like this, you fool. As he pulled out the sword and threw them up in the air. Oh, what's going on for real? It's like my body's on the go, but I ain't behind the wheel. As B catch all of the swords, 7 in total across his body. It's the Edo Tensei. You aren't in control. I'm so sorry, said Naruto. What do you have to be shot forward? Unable to control his movements as he swings his blades wildly straight towards Naruto. Naruto twists and ducks and dodges as he noticed the thin blue aura around each of the blades. Yo, Mr. 9, these movements ain't mine, you fool. As Naruto started to move backwards, bringing B away from Nagato. Watch out, Naruto, I got more limbs than these, you know, said B. The warning came too late though, as B threw one of his blades. It was grabbed by a octopus tentacle. Naruto brought up a wall of sand. It was rather weak, seeing that there was light in a room that could be break down into sand. But it did provide enough time for Naruto to bring up our third arm. As it grabbed the blade, using the previous pad, siphoning off the lightning chakra, but the blade dug into the palm. He raised a leg to block a kick to the stomach, but B body slammed right into him as he was slammed into the wall. As he looked up, B was spinning towards him with all of the blades. As Naruto could understand why the man was considered a powerhouse, even though it is tenant, he glanced around the area to see how far away was Nagato before he nodded. Come on, Nino, you gotta stop me, you know, said B. As Naruto raised a palm, hoping the building can handle a bit of damage. Almighty push, he said. Killer B couldn't really do anything as he was sent hurtling back by a wall of force as he broke right through the metal wall, going into the hallway of the building. As Naruto rushed after the man as the man broke through the sudden wall, dropping as Naruto dashed through it. It started to rain once again as his hero started to flap. As he landed though, he was surrounded by a squad of hidden range Jonins, all of them looking at him, giving him hard stares. You there, stop at once. But another one wearing a bandana rushed in and grabbed the hand that was holding the kunai. Stop it, you idiot. This is the monk that Tenchi-sama told us that will be staying here under the direct protection of Pain-sama. Their attitude quickly changed as they lowered their weapons as they bow. I apologize, Monk-sama, the man said. I didn't know. Oh, it's as Naruto quickly intensified the gravity as he brought all of them down towards their knees, dropping them towards their stomachs. As 4 tentacles with the blades covered in lightning swept over their head, coming towards him. Their eyes widened when they realized they were safe from incoming death. As Naruto was long gone, they looked up to see him looking down as he was at a different era, looking down to where tentacles came from. I mean, I know that's just not enough. If you want to put me down, you gotta start playing rough, said B as paper was floating around him, trying to patch his body up from the attack, from being hit through the building. Do not worry, Monk-san. We will take care of him for being Sama. The Jonin shot forward. Wait, said Naruto, as B sliced and tore, tearing through his opponents before he stopped in the intersection. The 4 Jonins went through hand sign, water style. Mizurapa, the 4th of them, said, as they all released the technique. The pressurized jets of water release from the 4 sides, leaving B nowhere to go. But the man did not even seem phased as he spun the blades with his tentacle. They became so fast they were like grey blurs as they simply blew away the water attacks. Before the Jonins could even say anything, 2 more blades were out, being stabbed into the ground. The cries of pain came as the ones that were not fast enough to jump away got electrocuted. It was a suicide move, seeing that B was also standing there, but with his Edo Tensei body, he was completely fine. Universal pull as Naruto yanked back all of the Jonins that were still alive. He's too dangerous. I will deal with him. Bandana Shinobi that first recognized him immediately protested, but as Naruto turned towards the man, all of them saw it. The chilling Rinnegan in his eyes. Your Tenji is injured and require help and protection. She's over by the lake. As the bandana man nodded as he rushed off towards their angel to see if she was okay. As the B body started to light up in a crisp, burning orange cloak. Sorry Naruto, the one pulling the string, it's cranked up a notch. At least you know got something to watch. "We," said B. As Naruto was surprised, he thought that it was just some lingering effects from having the Bijo removed from him. Like, what happened with Fu with their wings? B, is the Hatsumi still inside of you? Naruto asks. You should know that a little something like dying ain't gonna go crying to break up a killer combo like me and Jackie, you fool. That he rushed forward with immense speed. Sumi Bunchin, he said, as he spewed black ink from his mouth that grew into copies of him, but darker. Before they could get in closer, an equal amount of Naruto clones came into view, dropping their invisibility. Cuts as all of Naruto clones exploded, blowing apart the clones. Watch it, Nino. It seems that they want to go in the fight though. As the man spewed ink from his mouth once again, 30 of himself were created. As Naruto chains and sand lashed out, crushing 15 of them in a second. As the remaining 15 rushed towards him with incredible speed. Despite Naruto being fast, his normal speed was not that fast, without even using the Fox power that was granted to him, or Sage Mode. That is why he always enters Sage Mode to make up for the speed difference. Despite the chains and the sand, Killer Bee was a trained shinobi who has been at it for a number of years now besides Naruto, who didn't have the quite densest body after all. Naruto was never really trained in the ninja arts. As one of the clones managed to grab his hand, Killer Bee body then shifted as he entered second stage, his skin looking crimson red and some strange skull was on his arm. As the man crashed into Naruto, as Naruto felt the immense pain in his body, quickly reacted and started siphoning off the chakra from B. B slowed down as the chakra was siphoned off his body, drawn into Naruto by the Prita path, as a gravitational force exploded from Naruto, reducing the street into nothing but rubble. The blonde stayed there for a moment as he reached up towards his neck, but he felt nothing. There was no pain. Oh man, I was sure that was gonna work, but no that it didn't. I feel like some jerk, said B. Are you trying to kill me, B? Said Naruto. B shook his head. Of course not, you fool. It's just that much is not cool. I thought you would figure out my plan. You're taking way too long, my man. Maybe you can just tell me straight, said Naruto. As the chakra started to bubble on B once again. Fool, I'm dead. That ain't no fun. So come on, give me one last run. It seems it's time. Get ready, because we're gonna rhyme, said B. As the chakra grew and grew and grew. Standing there in the next second was a giant form of the Hatsumi. As an almighty roar shook the hidden rain, Nagato awoke as he could feel the violent chakra from the Hatsumi. But he saw absolutely nothing as he fell off his bed. He winced out in pain as he felt the pain in his back. He lay there as his breath was shallow as he tried to figure out what was going on. He couldn't see. He brought his hand up, his eyes were gone. At the same time, he didn't impale himself when he fell. That meant the rods were gone as well. He reached through the rain. He felt Naruto facing off against the power that was outside. That massive, immense power. So there he was without his eyes, trapped in a weakened body, with frail legs and frail arms. He wheeled his arms to transform into something to make him sit up, but he could not. Without his eyes, without his power, he was just a frail, blind, broken man. Hands clenched into a fist as he denied that though. His chakra surging just because my eyes are gone. His body remembered the way the chakra moved. He remembered the way the chakra molded. Doesn't mean I don't have the Rinnegan as his arm start to shift and twist as his arm resembles some complicated system that allowed him to sit up without putting much strain on his back. Here, around his eyes started to shift as well. As soon, orange pair of goggles set around them. Just like that he could see again, although seeing wasn't quite correct. Combined with his rain technique and his body's sensory type, he was able to visualize everything around him. It was blurry and unfocused and in black and white, but it was a start. As he looked through the window, as he saw Bijo roaming through his village, as he could feel Naruto fighting it. In the state that he was in, he couldn't do much, as he hoped Naruto could handle this. If he could not, then the hidden rain would be nothing more than a smoking, watery crater. As Naruto stared up at the towering form of the Hatsumi, as the thing glared back down at him, something was nagging in the back of Naruto's mind. Why did Killer Bee still have the Hatsumi? Surely it was the Akatsuki goal to collect the Bijus and seal them to Gedo statue, from what he got from Nagato's memory. If Toby was able to kill Killer Bee, why hadn't he taken the Biju? Did he know about him taking the other Bijus? If he did, what was he doing, offering him up the other Biju? As Naruto's eyes widened as it clicked into his mind, as he realized what B was doing, a small smile flashed across his face. B wants him to take the 8 tails. As Naruto looked up, a massive fist coming down towards him. Chains exploded upwards. They crisscrossed above him as they stopped the massive fist. The chains unfurled as Naruto was gone, as the chains wrapped around the Hatsumi's arm, looping and twisting all over it. Killer Bee smirked as he was unable to remove his hand, but the octopus opened his mouth as chakra started to form in front of it. As Naruto knew immediately what this was, having seen it before when facing off against Yagura. As Naruto's hand turned into a canister before he raised it upwards. As the chakra gathered as he fired it, it split right through the Biju bomb. For a moment, nothing happened before the thing started to crack as the chakra inside whips away, burst out into the air. As Naruto used that momentum to pull the 8 tails down, as the chains bind it. I'm sorry, Haxabi, Killer Bee, he said. But the Haxabi simply gave him a smile. You know what to do, Nino, said Killer Bee. Time skip, as Naruto sat there, an arm resting on the wall. You did good, Naruto. No rapping, said Naruto as he looked towards B, as rods had impaled the man down to the ground so he wouldn't be able to leave. Nah, I think this Killer Bee has finally buzzed out. I'm going to release you now, said Naruto. Absorbing the Haxabi wasn't an easy feat as his body felt quite exhausted. I never got to make my goodbyes. Say no more, said Naruto. Keep them at the front of your mind. I'll make sure they're delivered. B smiled at that. Well, thank you, Nino, he said. As Naruto placed a hand on the man's head. As B smiled at that. Well, I switch like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Because I'm the rapping Killer Bee, he said. See ya. Wee! As he tried to raise the arm. As Naruto removed the man's soul, freeing him. As Naruto stood there, the body cracked and revealed Orochimaru. As he now understand what Madara meant by he was very persuasive and know how he learned the jutsu. But at least the snake got what he got. After all, he deserved it. As Naruto made his way, as he had to go make sure everything was okay. Time skip. As Naruto was lying in bed, Fu right beside him. It's time, Naruto. As Naruto knew it was time. She will understand. You said that yourself, said Kurama. As Naruto propped himself up as Fu was sleeping comfortably, he placed a gentle kiss on her forehead as he made his way. Getting dressed, he made his way towards the village of the Hidden Rain before performing a seal. Summoning, he said, as a massive bird appeared and he hopped on the bird's back. He sat on the bird as he knew what he had to do now. He was going to end this once and for all. As Naruto closed his eyes, as he awoken in his mindscape, but it was no longer his mindscape that he knew. The place was white. It was like he was sitting on glass, but it was water. Well, this is new. As Naruto saw Kurama standing there, as he just rose up out of the water. What's going on? Your guess is as mine, said Kurama as he looked around. As Naruto looked down as he saw the other Bijous, silver chains around their neck as they were under the glass surface. As Naruto followed the chains that went towards his hand, he quickly released it. As all of them came up on the surface, the place trembled as they surrounded him, as he was trapped right in the center, with all of them looking down at him. As Naruto looked at all of them, well, this is the all too familiar scene, said Naruto. Haxabi, said Naruto. You can call me Jaiki, said Naruto. Manatabe has told me a lot about you, Naruto. B held you in high regards, as Naruto saw sadness flash across the Haxabi's face. So, I can consider us friends. As Naruto was surprised, he never knew what to expect from the second strongest. But, to go out of his way to call his friend. Okay, thank you, Jaiki, said Naruto with a smile. We'll get along just fine, Naruto. It's a pleasure to finally see you face to face, as he held out a hand and bumped fists with Naruto. The fox snorted at that. Ah, Kurama. Let me guess, you're still on that high to believe that, just because of our tails, father, favor us the most. Still, being a pathetic weaklings that slave to human being, asked Kurama in a growl. Damn it, will you two stop it already? As Komi came between them, usually the peacemaker of the family. As she looked towards the two of them, both of them seemed to not want to keep it up. As she went back to her spot. So what now? That is up to you, Naruto, said Manatabe. As Son Goku took over, we understand what you're doing. And we agree with your actions and support you. As Kurama then took over, a long time ago our father assembled us like this and told us that in the future, we will all be brought together once again. As the fox lowered his head slightly, I must say, out of my other previous containers, I didn't hope much from you. But you always seem to do the unexpected. Despite what life has thrown at you, you always overcome it. And I have to say, it has been quite the experience being by your side, Naruto Uzumaki. Thank you, said Naruto, as he smiled at Fox. I made a promise to you all, said Naruto, and I have not forgotten it. I will make sure that all of you get your slice of peace, he said to them with a smile, looking at each of the Bijus, before his body started to fade. It's time, said Kurama, as Naruto nodded. Yes, it was time to end this once and for all. But guys, we'll be in subscribe right here. If you want next person to like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on the bell notifications they posted. Remember, share to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also, go ahead and check out the What If Over Anime King 2 of What If Naruto was put through hell and adopted by the Raikage, and enjoy that, guys. And remember, if you're new to go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all for helping your support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new. I'll be planning talking back to all of you. So yeah, without further ado, I'm more for now. See you guys soon. Peace out.